right, I'm in a different operating environment for this week's version of the podcast, and I want to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to get into 2025 planning, and we'll include some information around one of the things that we're launching in October, a 30-day program that we're going to conduct in October with the Leader Lab, which is the updated version of the Phoenix Club. So watch for some rebranding around that. You might have heard us talk about the Phoenix Club before. It's a community for leaders who want to think different so that they can do different. And we've decided that the name was a little bit confusing, given that Jen and I live in Phoenix, and you do not need to be in Phoenix to be a part of that. We're going to get into 2025 planning. We're going to get into the Success Blueprint, a 30-day program that we're launching in October for Phoenix Club members, and share some information with you if you'd like to get involved before we wrap up. When do you typically start to think about 2025 planning? In your business, if you're part of an organization, there's likely a group of people that are getting together this month or early in October, and they will start thinking about what does 2025 look like from a financial number perspective, from a number of employee perspective, from an organization of team perspective, from a go-to-market perspective, from a let's address some of the objectives that we have based on what we've learned in 2024 objective. And that typically, if you're on a typical calendar year, will happen in this September, October time period. Now, for many of us small business owners, we push this off and we push it off and push it off. And sometimes we don't get into it until November. Even worse, we may not get into it until the December time period. I'm going to talk about the importance of getting into that a bit earlier. And from my perspective, it's never too early to plan. And at the same time, it's never too early to adjust the plan if the plan that you put in place is not working. So how do we know if a plan is working? Well, we should have some objectives. We should know where we want to get to. Current state versus desired state. So desired state, where we want to get to. Current state, where are we today? If we know those two things, we can build a plan. If we've built a plan and we've been working that plan and we're not making any progress toward our desired state, then our plan may not be working. Now, you've got to assess yourself and make sure that you're actually doing the work that you said you were going to do. And if you are doing the work that you said you're going to do and you're not making progress, something's wrong. Either the plan is flawed, which that could be the case, or something changed in the market. There's some external things we just didn't realize were the case. So we have a desired state. We know what our current state is. We build a set of things that we're going to put in place to help us get there. That ends up being our strategy. How will we get there? And you might have a couple of different ways that you look at strategy. I like to think of a three-pronged approach with strategy. That strategy could be around delivering new products into the market. It could be going into a new market. It could be creating specialization inside your organization. Now, the other thing that happens with planning is thinking about that planning from the perspective of our family, the people that are closest to us. So you think of vacation planning, maybe. Maybe you think of buying a second house. Maybe you think of adding that addition to the house that you were looking for. These other things that we start to look at from a planning perspective on what would we like to accomplish as a family or group of people that are important to us. And then the third area that we want to look at is, hey, what do we want to accomplish from the perspective of self? As we lead self, how do we want to move forward? How do we want to move toward whatever that objective is that we want to achieve? And that objective is probably constantly changing, whether it's a financial objective, it could be a fitness objective, it could be a quality of life objective, whatever that thing is. So we all have objectives. We all have a place that we want to go, and we all have a place where we currently are. Now, if you're not goal-oriented, you don't set goals for whatever reason. It's okay. If you feel stuck, though, and you're not achieving the things you want to achieve, then I would recommend setting some small goals, desired state, objectives, and then building out your plan to get from your current state to your desired state. And that first starts with that understanding what our objectives are, and then moving into the strategy that we might apply. Now, once we layer in strategy, then it's important to create tactics. The cool thing about strategy and tactics can change more frequently than strategy. If your strategy is constantly changing, you're going to create a lot of confusion, both for yourself, inside your family, and in your business. Tactics, on the other hand, that's where you've got a little bit more flexibility. You can start to figure out, how do those tactics that you're working on nest inside the strategy? And we've talked about this in the context of the game plan before. And if you want to go deeper into that, check out the episode that we did around simplifying execution, or the episode that I did like this around simplifying execution. I had the whiteboard in the background and we had some of that stuff going together. So as a team, as a leadership team inside an organization, you will likely come together and say, all right, we agree these are what our objectives are. It could be a financial objective. It could be market penetration objective. It could be any number of things. Once you've identified that objective and you agreed to it as a team and you're aligned on the definition of that objective, then you've earned the right to move into discussing how you're actually going to get there. What is your strategy? That strategy could include hiring. It could be investing in new technology. It could be investing in hardware. It could be investing in people. It could be investing, and that could be new people that you bring into the organization, or it could be in training and coaching and developing existing people inside the organization. Things start to get super complex here when you try to do too much. Try to have 10 different strategies. My recommendation would be start with 3. And if you find yourself getting distracted with 3, or struggle with figuring out what your three-pronged approach is to accomplishing whatever the objective is that you're looking for, then it's okay to move forward if you have 2. However, if you are in that situation where you have a single strategy to move forward, know that you're taking on a significant amount of risk. Know that you're taking on a lot of risk. And then on the other side, if you constantly are changing your strategy, or you have 5 strategies, or you have 6 strategies or 7 strategies, what you're going to do is you're going to create a lack of clarity inside your business. You're going to create, which will turn into a lack of focus. And what will end up happening is you'll have a number of people moving in multiple directions. And that's part of what this 30-day blueprint to success is going to do to help you, whether it's for a team that you're thinking about inside an organization, the way that you make money, your family, that unit, that team that you have, or for self. We've been very deliberate in the way that we've designed it to help support that. So we were in this planning process. We're thinking about what 2025 looks like. We're envisioning a future that's much greater than where we are. And now we've started to lay out some strategies, some hows on how we're going to execute or achieve that. Well, the next thing we want to do is lay in those tactics and make sure that the tactics align with the strategy. And typically, and I've gotten feedback from people around this who've been able to go through the game plan or have worked with me in some of these areas, some people get really good at putting together a to-do list, a list of things that they want to get done. But that list of things doesn't necessarily align directly with the strategy that will help them achieve their goal. So they end up working really hard, but not making any progress. This is that whole piece of moving really, really fast, but not accelerating speed to impact. And speed to impact is much more important than going fast. As a team, we know what our objective is. We have an understanding of where we are. We lay out our strategy on how we're going to get there, and then we create these tactics nested in the strategy that will help us hold ourselves accountable to doing the work aligned with the strategy, and then also hold the work accountable to working. The cool thing about working through strategic planning is it provides an opportunity for you to pause in the middle of the day or in the middle of the operation, pause, to take a breath and ask yourself these questions. Are we moving toward our objective? Are we getting closer to where we wanted to be? If not, why? This starts to sound like the hexagon in that problem-solving framework that I've shared before. If not, why? If not, why have we not made progress? Why is this problem that we're working toward continue to persist? We can also work through and say, why is it important for us to solve? What's the impact of actually solving, making that kind of progress? What more can we do, either business, family, or self? This pause, these reflective questions that we ask ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to working through, will create a shift in perspective that will help us start to see things a little bit differently. And when you see things a little bit differently, then you'll be able to think a little bit differently, and then you'll be able to move into the point of being able to do differently. I like to use this period, this September, October period, to do this kind of work with clients. When it comes to our business directly, we typically will do this in November because of the time frame for reflection that happens around Thanksgiving. Now that we've expanded the team, including Jen a little bit more, including Sean a little bit more, we need to do this a little bit earlier. So we've got this planning period. We're going through. We know where we want to go. We know where we are. We've built out our plan. We work through tools like the hexagon to identify where our blind spots are. And then we build out a project plan, a 30, 60, 90 to help us work toward achieving those results. Short-term, medium-term, and long-term approach. This is all part of that planning process. Now, the thing that you want to do, make sure that you get involved in this when you're doing this inside your organization, is make sure you bring the right stakeholders to the discussion. Many of us have run into those situations where a plan is given to us. Operators who are in the work, doing the day-to-day, the plan is given to us. And we get into those situations where we either don't know how to provide the feedback back to the organization around why that plan won't work, or ask specific questions around what were the assumptions made when the plan was originally put together, or even ask this view of the future of, hey, what could be different if we tried something different? So the other thing I would recommend that you include in your process is some time and space for you to be able to share the planning process with your team. Ask the questions before you go into the strategic review discussions so that you have that context when you're going through your process. The further away you get from the work that's being done in the field, the more disconnected you are from what your customers are seeing, feeling, thinking, what you're both internal and external, more disconnected from what is actually working in this space, and more disconnected from what has changed. So take the time. In the old days, we talk about this as managing by walking around, managing by wandering around. Take the time to go out there, be in the field, be with your team, ask questions, and let them know the context. Let them know why you're asking that stuff, because at the same time that you're starting to think about next year, they're working on wrapping up this year. Now, if you're not leading a team and you're working on this from a self perspective, why is it important to do now? Well, if you start doing it now, you can start getting the things in place so that you will have a foundation for success as you move into 2025 or any kind of future year. And again, this is a process that I'll go through typically with clients in the September, October period, and then typically inside our business in November, but we're doing it a little bit different this year. So we have an objective. We agree on it. We have strategy that we're going to use to help us get to the objective. We agree on that. We have tactics aligned with the strategy that we're going to apply to get to the objective. And then we have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan, 30, 60, 90, to help us see incremental progress as we move towards success as it relates to the plan. Now, there are some things that people also miss in all of this process. Sometimes you don't have a goal. Sometimes you don't have an objective. Sometimes you don't feel comfortable with saying no to certain things. So you get into some decision-making criteria that need to get applied. You get into things like prioritization, and you have to work through that. So this is where the 30-day blueprint to success comes in. And we've got 10 distinct topics that we're going to work through as a group, split out into a learn, think, act over a 3-day period for each one of the topics, so that at the end of the action part, you're actually putting work into practice at the end of each of these topics. It's going to be a pretty intense 30-day program. We really want people doing when they go through it is to say, we have that feeling of, hey, I accomplished something. I've been able to eliminate some blind spots. I'm creating forward momentum. When it comes to saying, this is that whole feel, say, do, say. They're telling people that this was absolutely worth the amount of time and energy that they invested into it. They implemented these things and ultimately started to achieve certain things. They are confident that they're moving on the right track and they're building towards success in 2025. Now, on the do things, you're going to have to do the work. And if you want to be a part of it, the way to be a part of it is to join the Phoenix Club in October. There'll be links to that in the show notes for this session. If you have any questions about the Phoenix Club, just go to findmycatalyst.com. If you're not struggling with the planning and you're moving toward all of your objectives and you don't feel stuck and you feel like you're getting all that momentum is building, then this probably isn't for you. But if you're in one of those situations where you feel stuck, you might feel a little bit trapped, there's a little bit of uncertainty, you'd like to work together with a group of people who are committed to your success, a group of leaders who are committed to your success, who know that leadership starts with self and know that we get better by helping others get better, then the Phoenix Club, well, now Leader Lab, as we're going through the rebranding, the Leader Lab may be the perfect place for you. You might find your tribe, you might find your group there. Speed to impact is more important than going fast. Speed to impact is more important than going fast. Impact is a function of change, moving things forward, which ultimately is how I think of leadership. Leadership is about moving things forward. Culture is about how we do what we do. Revenue is about how we fund the things we want to do. And execution is about how we achieve results. Simple definitions that a lot of people tend to overcomplicate in my experience. So if this sounds interesting, check out the 30-Day Blueprint to Success with the Phoenix Club. This kicks off on October 1st. It is a very deliberate program that we've put together. It'll include some videos for the first day, which is a learn. The second day on the theme or the specific topic includes reflection questions. So think, how does it apply to what you already know? And then the third day is around action and having a simple set of note cards, a note card to be a complete fill in the blank type style work, where at the end you'll have 10 of these note cards, and those 10 of these note cards will actually be your blueprint to success as you move toward 2025. If that sounds interesting, please let me know directly. You can either send me a text, you can engage with me in one of the Slack communities we might be a part of, or send me a direct message. Again, go to findmycatalyst.com for more information on this and how to join the Phoenix Club. The links should be apparent. If they aren't, go to the live chat and let me know that directly too. One of the things that I'd be interested in hearing from you as you listen to this is, where have you struggled historically when it comes to planning and execution? As you think forward, you look long-term into next year, you start to think about what 2025 looks like. What are some of the common mistakes that you've made? I can tell you some of the common mistakes I've made is not having a plan, which sounds funny, but I've gone into years where I haven't had a plan. I gained a greater appreciation of the importance of planning and the benefit of coming together as a group in this period when leading teams in W-2 roles that I had, and now seeing how it changes inside organizations. Now, typically, and this happens across many of the organizations I've been fortunate enough to work with, they don't have a structured planning process. They don't know how to get folks engaged. And if that's something you're running into, you're looking for help with, know that I'm available. We can start with something as simple as a whiteboard as a service. And all of that begins with a clarity call. And from a clarity call, we clarify understanding. So make sure that I have a complete understanding of what we're actually trying to accomplish, which includes objectives, understanding a current state, desired state, and objectives. Once we have that, then we can get into things like methods and determine whether or not fit is there. And then all of that starts with a clarity call. And those are pretty clear, I hope, on findmycatalyst.com. This is a short episode. I hope you found the information valuable. Have a goal, have an objective, be clear around what that is. Know what the distance is between where you are today and what that objective is, current state versus desired state. Build out a strategy to achieve it, 3-prong, no more. Less is okay, but don't do it one way, because if you do it one way, you open yourself to too much risk. Layer in some tactics to align with that strategy, so you're not just doing work for the sake of work. Have an accountability system built in, checklist related to the work that you're doing on a daily and weekly basis to hold yourself accountable to the work and the work accountable to working. Build out your short-term, medium-term, long-term plan. Know that a lot of this stuff gets better when you work with a group of people on it. And what you find when you work with a group of people who are like-minded leaders who want to think different so that they can do different, which is what we built with the Leader Lab. are committed to your success, will help you uncover some of your blind spots, and may actually help you think a bit different so that you can do different as a group. Hope you enjoyed the podcast episode today. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can head to findmycatalyst.com for information about both the 30-day blueprint for success and the Phoenix Club. Sales is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about your process? Thank you.